Hi guys, welcome back to Matt Revs RC. Today we're going to be taking out and rebuilding the Losi 3.0 centre diff. Right, let's get a body off and see what we've got. Take the clips off. There we go. Right, this was originally a 3.0 nitro. I've since converted this car over to electric with the Losi conversion kit, which is fairly straightforward. I've put in I had this already in something else, a Castle 2200 kV 1/8 scale electric motor and Sidewinder 8 ESC. Probably better off in a big sort of monster truck type thing, which is actually what it came out of, but seems to run okay in this. The pinion is 18-19 tooth, I think, and it has a 50-40 spur gear, which is the metal spur gear, not the plastic one. But you know, I did swap that over myself, but I didn't bother checking the diff fluid. I noticed there wasn't much in it at the time, so it's about time to do the diff rebuild. I'm not going to film the diff being taken out. I'm just going to do the diff rebuild itself. Also, I did swap over the crappy Dean's connectors for the XT90s, so there's two of those there for running 2S lipos or 3S lipos. So right, let's get on with it, get the centre diff out and have a look and see what we got. But does seem to be, if you can just about see there's some diff oil escaping from the nuts, around the nuts. So I mean, they're nice and tight because when I changed the spur over, I tightened them up myself. I know they can come undone, but this does say to me that the diff oil's, probably knackered, getting a bit thin. So I'm probably going to stick maybe 100,000 weight, something like that in there, or maybe even ease it out a little bit with some 50,000, sort of try and get a bit of a mixture of both. So we're going to take this apart in a little bit, have a look and see what it's like. Right, let's take the top of this off, have a little look. Alright, it's not too bad actually. I've seen worse. It's a bit milky, but that's to be expected. Let's take the gasket off there, put that to one side. Does seem quite thin, the diff oil. In fact, there's hardly anything in it actually. I don't know if you can see that. That looks pretty empty to me. So we'll take everything out and rebuild it. Put some new diff oil in it. It's turning okay. Right, let's get these spider gears out and give them a clean up. Got a small tray here, so I'm just going to tip this out. Right, nearly got the spider gears out. Let's get something in behind that. There we go, that's it. Lovely. Yeah, I mean that diff looks like it's been leaking for a while because there's absolutely nothing in it, to be honest with you. So it looks fairly empty to me, so never mind. Right, I need to get some long nose pliers in there to remove the pin that holds the output drive on. So that pulls out like that. Then there should be a small retaining washer in there as well that we can try and get off. In fact, I maybe just push the output drive through. There we go, like that. There we have it there. And there we got the back of the diff, the bearing on, which we can take off. That is a flanged bearing actually. I'm not too sure that I've got any of those, so it looks a bit rough to me, but I'll give it a clean up and we'll have a look and see what we can do to it. It does look like it's got a rubber seal in it, so focus on that. Does look like it's got a rubber seal on it, so hopefully we can ping that off and put some grease back in and not waste it. So normally I would probably at this stage replace the bearings, which is something that I wanted to do, but I don't think I've got a flanged one, and it's got that little lip on it there, so that's called a flanged bearing. It's still an RS bearing, it's not a double Z, so it does have the rubber seal. So yeah, I'll take that off. I'm going to first clean everything up using the brake and clutch cleaner, so we remove all the grease, all the old diff oil, and get that done. Take this pin out, use the long tip pliers like that, pull that pin out. Hopefully they're both the same, I assume that they are, and then we can drop that other output drive from the ring gear. Actually that's not the ring gear, that's the spur gear, and pull the bearing off, chuck all that in together and give it a good spray up. And get the toothbrush on it, give that a good clean up. I haven't told the wife yet, but that's her toothbrush. Right. Right, pull the spider gears off the shaft. I'm trying not to get my hands in the way of that so you can see what's going on. I'm going to give it another spray up. That's it. And this is the stuff that I'm using. Here we go, brake and clutch cleaner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just quickly clean these up, wipe them down with a tissue, and I'll show you sort of all the bits and pieces cleaned up, and then rebuild the diff again, and we'll go back through that. In fact, I might show you how to grease the bearings for anybody that sort of hasn't done it, doesn't know how to ping the cover off, put the cover back on. It's fairly straightforward, but some people don't realise that you can do that with rubber seal bearings. So we'll have a quick look at that, and yeah, hopefully it should all go okay. Right, also there's a rubber ring there in the bottom of the diff housing and a washer as well, so they've both got to make sure they go back in the right order. There's the washer, bottom of the diff housing, which is there. You can just see that there's a metal piece in there as well, and the rubber, so we'll get that back together in a bit. Lovely. Right, here's all the parts nicely cleaned up. Spider gears, shafts, pinion gear, output drives, whatever they're called, cups, and the two flange bearings, which I'm going to clean up now. There's a gasket there I still haven't cleaned, but I'll do that right now. Right, I'm going to try and remove the seals with using a sharp blade. So the one side of the flange bearing, I normally go for the side that hasn't got the flange on it. I don't know why, but it's just something that I do. So you want to get the scalpel underneath the edge, like so, without stabbing your finger, and it should ping off like that. So then you're left with the bearing you can see inside there. So I'm going to give that a quick clean out, quick spray up, like so. Wipe it dry, and then we're just going to repack that up. You can put oil in. Some people use bearing oil. I tend to use a bit of grease, which I've got here. Nothing too elaborate. If it does break down after a while and it shows signs of being slightly stiff or gritty, then obviously I'll just replace the bearing altogether. It's a good idea to do that once in a while. But we can put the cover, just go straight back on, push that into place like so, make sure that's fully home, and that's it, that one's done. Feels smoother. not as noisy, doesn't sound as gritty. So I'm going to do the other one, and they'll be ready to go back on. Right, we're back, and I've dropped in the washer as we saw before, put one of the output drive cups in, and I've stuck one of the shims on top. The rubber kept popping out, so I've pushed the shim on top of it to hold it into place, and now I'm just trying to get the pin back in, which is sort of easier said than done. So I was trying to fit it into one of these sort of recesses here, but it turns out if you sort of come in at a slight angle, you can just about get that in. So I've got some tweezers here, so I can actually just try and see if we can see that there. Try and get that pin, where is it there, try and push that through like so. It's really tricky. It's not sort of, there you go, that's in. So that's right where we want it, exactly in the middle there. So that's perfect. So we can start rebuilding the diff. Right, okay, so now the pin's in there, we can drop in one of the ring gears, get that in the right place. That should seat in there fairly well, like so. That's okay, that's fine. And now we're going to put together the spider gears, like so. One on either end, like that, with the flat side on the outside. If there's too much movement in these, people do tend to shim diff, so using shims that are sort of similar to the ones we got there, you can shim either side of them, and that should take out some slop. So, you know, it's something to sort of think about in the future anyway. Right, you need to get this either side and then drop that. Hold on, let's get that right. That's it. So the first spider gear is in, like so. We want to make sure that the shaft with the cutout in that is on the top. So I'll just spin that around, bring that cutout to the top, like so, and then the next one should slot in on top of that. So I'll put that down there, get the other shaft, put the spider gears, two final ones back on, like so. That's it. Make sure that the cutout on this shaft is at the bottom, so as you put it in, it marries up with the one that's already in there. So just drop that in now. That's it, and that is all back together. So that first shaft there is sitting on top of the one underneath, and they're properly locked in, so that's good. There we go, you can see that a bit better. Right, okay guys, we've got the spider gears inside the housing. I'm going to get the spur gear, and we're going to get the bearing, goes on the top. So with the flange side of the bearing facing the outside of the spur gear, make sure that clicks on properly. Okay, and on the inside we've got the rubber washer in there, the sealer washer, and I'm going to put the shim over the top of that, like so, and then push the cup through, like so. That's it, until that clicks into place, and then stick the pin back in. A bit easier to do on this one than, well, I said that, hold on. A bit easier to do on the top than it is on the bottom of the differential case. So that should hold the cup in place there, like so. Okay, and then this goes back on the top. That's it, and that is ready to go back on. Right, I'm going to fill the diff up with some new fluid. I'm going to use 1,000, sorry, not 1,000, 100,000 CST, which might be a bit thick, but I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. So I'm just going to squeeze this in. It's very thick, as you can see. give it a couple of minutes to settle. Chuck it in, and also give it a turn. Try and drag everything to the bottom. The gears might flick up a bit as you do that. Just push them back down like so. Give it a turn. There we go. Stand that back up, and some more diff oil. It's up to you how much you want to put in. Some people half fill, some people full fill, some people 3/4. Depending on the thickness of the diff oil and how much patience you've got. I mean, you know, I'm just going to wait for it to settle down a bit and just top it up a bit more. It's almost there for me. Like I said, you know, we're not fine-tuning and racing these cars within milliseconds. We're you know, bashing them really. And even on the Losi, which is done for speed runs, I don't think it really makes that much difference to us anyway. And the speedometer's broken anyway, so I don't think it's going to make any difference at the moment. Right, I'll let that stand for a minute and then we'll come back to it. Right, I've dropped that gear into there, so we want to make sure that that line is running horizontally all the way across from this side to this side, and that we've got the 4 screw holes, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So what we do is with the spur, we make sure, let's get that so you can see it, we make sure that the pin is the same horizontal in between the 4 screw holes there, and then we can literally pop this back on the top like that, and that's all ready to be screwed together. Should all line up perfectly. Right, I'll put these in by hand first, and then as we tighten them up, sorry my fingers are in the way, like so. Right, and then what we should do now, we need to tighten these up on opposite sides. So we get the first one in, like so, and then we pick the one on the opposite side. Don't go too tight because we want to get a balance in pressure around the diff housing, and also we don't want to over tighten it because we could end up stripping the thread. Right, so we've gone the opposite sides of those two, and then bring this one in, like so, and then come to the one on the other side. And now we know we've got even pressure on the face of the spur on the diff housing. That's it, like so, and then just going to knit these up. Don't go too tight, like so, and that is it. Quick wipe down, and that feels good. Oh, that's nice. That's much better. Yeah, that's good. Right, one diff. Right, that's all done, everything's back in. I'll give it a blast and see what happens. Hopefully the thicker diff oil should make a bit of difference. The front tyres were ballooning a lot. Don't think I'm going to use the soft, actually I've put these on the Traxxas Slash, the softer tyres. But I do have over here some slightly harder 1/8 scale buggy tyres, which are really firm, good for running, speed runs, don't balloon. So I'm going to chuck them on, see what happens. So anyway guys, thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Also we're on Instagram with general updates, photographs, tips and stuff like that at MattRevsRC. So please have a look at us there. And thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.